All right, so this video is for those of you that missed our life group last night. We're actually continuing on the topic of marriage. And basically what we talked about last night is that as a married couple, you can never get away from the fact that there's going to be conflict. You can never get away from the fact that there's going to be arguments. And I think a lot of times many of us think if we're constantly arguing or if there's just constant conflict or constant things that we're hashing out, that we think we have a bad marriage. And truth is, we want to point you to the fact that we're all self-centered. We're all sinners. We all have a flesh, and oftentimes it comes out in the worst times and even times that we don't want it to. So because of that, even if you're saved, even if you've been regenerated and redeemed, there are still things that are going to come up, and there's still going to be things that you're just simply selfish with and that causes conflict. So we want you to know that there is a healthy and there is a good way to actually have conflict in your marriage. So basically what I want to do in this video is point you to a God who is long-suffering, point you to a God who is patient with you and your spouse. Because a lot of times we want grace for ourselves and we want our spouses to be patient with us, but we want justice for them. We don't want to be patient. We don't want to be graceful to our spouse. We want them to change right now. So I want to point you to actually Song of Solomon, chapter 5. And Song of Solomon it's a love letter, it's a romance, it's just this beautiful story of a relationship going on. And most people read it that way, and it is. But the truth is, there's a lot of conflict that actually goes on in Song of Solomon. Actually, 20% of the book is filled with conflict. So picking it up in Song of Solomon 5, and let me just kind of give you a little context how this is taking out. So imagine it this way. Song of Solomon, him and his wife have actually just ended their honeymoon. So they're like on an all-time high. Things are great. They have just celebrated. They've been with each other for the first time. Right now, there's almost nothing that can ruin their day. And then all of a sudden, a few days after their honeymoon, there is a conflict. Maybe sound familiar? Like right after that honeymoon season, most of us have that honeymoon season 2 weeks into marriage. It's great. Everybody's on their best behavior. And then all of a sudden, conflict and reality sinks in. So this is what happens. We pick it up in Song of Solomon 5, verse 2. It says, "I slept, but my heart was awake. A sound. My beloved is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is wet with dew, my locks with the drops of night." Solomon, essentially, he had been working all day, all night. He'd been working in the fields. He was tired. He was sweaty. He was ready to come home. And he came home late enough that his wife had already showered and gone to bed. Sound familiar? He was ready to maybe be with his wife, spend some time with his wife, maybe get a hot meal when he got home. He had some expectations that he never communicated to his wife, and so he shows up at the door, and she's already in bed sleeping, and not only that, the door's locked. So let's continue reading. Song of Solomon 5, verse 3. "I had put off my garment. How could I put it on? I had bathed my feet. How could I soil them?" So let me set up the scene here. Let me explain what's going on. Solomon's coming home after a long day of work, and all he can think about essentially is just getting home. He probably thought about his wife and how nice it would be to actually be with her. He thought maybe, hey, she's going to welcome me home with a kiss. She's going to have food on the table. She's going to slip on some lingerie, and maybe I can pet those fawns, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he had some unmet expectations. He had some ideas of what he thought the night was going to be like, and lo and behold, instead of that going on, instead of that happening, his wife is in bed. She already bathed, she already showered, she is sleeping. So this is a very typical scene in married life, right? Maybe you get home from a long day of work and you're expecting something from your wife, or maybe as a wife, you get home and you got dishes in the sink, and you're hoping that when you get home, your husband would have saw those dishes and he would have taken some responsibility and actually washed them. So you get home and you see dishes in the sink, and you're like, what in the world? And instantly you're mad, and instantly you have conflict. But maybe you actually never communicated between, hey, babe, it'd be nice if you could actually wash the dishes. So all frustration is birthed out of unmet expectation, and so is nearly every conflict. Almost every conflict is birthed out of unmet expectations. But what I want to point you to is this. In the middle of conflict, Solomon has an interesting way of actually responding to it. So let's read Song of Solomon 5, verse 4. My beloved put his hand to the latch, and my heart thrilled within me. I arose to open to my beloved, and my hands dripped with mirth, my fingers with liquid mirth, and my hands off the bolt. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned and gone. So let me kind of tell you what's going on. Back in that day, when you put your hand on the latch, instead of just simply knocking on the door, it was kind of like saying, hey babe, I'm giving you some flowers. I want you to let you know that you didn't really maybe meet my expectations that I had, but I want you to know that I still love you and I'm still here for you. But Solomon is also going, but my heart's not necessarily in the right place. So I outwardly respond to you by saying, I'm here, but you know what? I'm taking off. So what happens? She opens the door, and instead of him being there waiting for her, he says, I'm going for a walk, or I'm going to sleep on the couch. I'm not spending some time with you. I'm getting out of here. So outwardly, he responded in the right way by going, okay, babe, I'm still here. I want you to know that I love you, but at the same time, my heart's not really in the right place. And honestly, I didn't bathe, and I'm not getting in bed with you. That's basically what he's saying. So often, though we can say the right things, but if our heart's in the wrong place, it's still sinful. So you might be in the middle of a conflict, and maybe you're the one that, maybe you're a steward. Like that's kind of how I am. I hold things in. My wife is very verbal with things. And maybe you can think, well, because I didn't lash out in anger or because I didn't say the wrong words, you think that you're in the right. I want to let you know if your heart is actually in the wrong place, you're still in just as much sin as the other that chose to spew and the one that chose to get angry and the one that chose to get mad. So here's the deal. Even in tension, there can be tenderness. Even in conflict, there should be reminders of love. That's what Solomon does here. He goes, listen, my expectations weren't met. We didn't get to do what I possibly wanted to do that night. But he's still saying, you know what? Yes, I was a little frustrated. Yes, I was a little mad. Yes, I was a little disappointed. But in the middle of this conflict, I still kind of want to let you know that I love you. And that's exactly what Solomon's wife does. Because if you keep reading Scripture, when she finds out that he ran and that he went on a walk, it actually says that she ran after him. She bolted out of the door to go look for him. So here's the deal. Somebody in the middle of conflict, somebody in the middle of an argument has to be the mature one to say, babe, I'm sorry for the way that I reacted. I'm sorry for the way that I talked. I'm going to chase you right now. I'm gonna run after you. I'm going to pursue you even in the middle of conflict. So here's the deal. God knows that fights are going to happen. He knows that conflict is going to happen. But what he wants us to do is learn to fight fair. Learn to fight fair. So I'm going to go over 5 different things of how we can actually fight fair. And what I would encourage you to do as I go over these, because I don't have the time to actually explain all of them, but what I want you to do is when I say them, maybe just pause the video and actually have a conversation with your spouse of how can we do these things better. So here's how we fight fair. Number 1, respond, don't react. Respond, don't react. Don't just in the heat of an argument just react out of how you feel and you go, well, it's going to make me feel so much better if I can just unleash everything that I want to say to her or everything that I want to say to him. And how to respond? That leads us to number 2. Go to God. Go to God first. Before you have that all-out, just heated battle of an argument, you want to go at it, you want to wring each other's necks, maybe just say, hey, pause, time out. Let's take some time. You go spend some time with Jesus. I'm going to go spend some time with Jesus and really figure out how we should talk about this. Maybe you just need some time to cool off. Maybe you need some time to go reflect. And instead of saying painful, hurtful words that maybe you would have said out of just simply reacting, you can actually think and process about what you're going to say and how you should actually deal with the conflict. Number 3, learn to talk well to each other. And I want to give you real quick just 10 things of how we can talk well to each other. Number 1, never respond to your mate harshly. Never respond out of anger. Never respond harshly. Number 2, never touch your mate out of temper or frustration ever. Number 3, never seek to shame your spouse in public or in private. Don't do that. Never seek to shame them. That doesn't resolve anything. It just creates more conflict. Number 4, if you have kids, never fight in front of the kids. Number 5, never mention your spouse's parents or any family member in the middle of an argument. Bad idea. Like, let me give you for an example. Like, if you're a man and maybe your tendency is after you get out of the shower, you leave your towel on the floor and you expect your wife to pick it up. And if she doesn't, you say something like, well, my mom used to always pick up my towels, so woman, you should pick up my towel. That's just bad idea. You just dug yourself in a hole, and you should probably crawl in it. Number 6, never dig up the past. Try to stay on topic. Whatever you're arguing about or whatever conflict is, like, stay on topic and talk about just that. Don't bring up, well, 5 years ago when you did this is why I did this. Don't do that. That just creates more conflict on top of the conflict that's already there. Number 7, I'm guilty of this one. Never try to win. Never try to win the argument for the sake of winning. Like, if you realize in the midway in the argument that you're wrong, just say, okay, I'm wrong. And I've done that so many times where, honestly, I'm arguing, and in the middle of it, I know that I'm wrong and my wife is right, but I keep arguing because I just want to win. I'm competitive. I want to win the argument. I want to shame her. And it does no good. There's no benefit that comes in it. Number 8, never yell, use put-downs, or verbally defame your spouse. That does no good. Number 9, and I think this one explains itself. Never withhold physical intimacy or use sex to manipulate. Let me say that one again. Never withhold physical intimacy or use sex to manipulate. I think that one's self-explanatory. And last but not least, never put off seeking resolution. Remember, the whole reason you got in the argument in the first place was to come to a resolve. The whole reason that you have conflict is because obviously both of you don't agree on something, and you shouldn't get into the conflict because you just want to prove your point. You should get into the conflict, and you should get into the argument because of the fact that, hey, there's something that needs to be solved, and there's something that we both maybe need to check our hearts on, and one person might have to say sorry and just simply say that I was wrong. The whole purpose of an argument, the whole purpose of a conflict is to say there has to be resolve. There has to be resolve. So number 4, listen well. Some of us just need to shut up. We need to stop talking, and we just need to listen. Listen well. And last but not least, always forgive. Always forgive. Like I said in the very beginning, there's always going to be conflict, and there's always going to be times where you can get offended or hurt. But we always must forgive. If we don't forgive, we become bitter, and bitterness is like a poison, and it affects all of our relationships, and it does more harm and more damage than it does good. So that's what we talked about. That's what we went over, and obviously that's an abbreviated version of what we did. But I think how this could be really helpful is for you to download the notes that are actually attached to this video, maybe read through them, and also talk through this with your spouse. If during different points, if you need to go back and listen to this video and pause and say, hey, babe, what do you think about that point? Or what do you think about what he said here? Or what do you think about what we're reading right here? Also, one thing as a resource that we want to offer to you guys and make you guys know about, some of the points and some of the things that I pulled and some of the stuff that I teached on in this video are available in a book called The Mingling of Souls by a guy named Matt Chandler. He's a great author, great communicator. But if you would like to read that, maybe you want to read something together with your spouse, it'd be a great resource for you guys to grow and for you to grow in not only your relationship with Jesus, but just in your relationship with each other. So I hope this video was refreshing. I hope that it was a good resource to you. Love you, and hope you have a great day.